All right, so basically, yesterday somebody asked me how I go about blending. I can't remember who asked me how I go about blending my Copics. So when I first started with these markers, I started off with just these toned grays. So I was using the neutral gray that you could buy in a set, and then they have a warm gray, which has a little bit of it's almost like a tan color to it. And then there's a cool gray, which has a little bit of a bluer cool to it. You see a lot of comic book artists use these different kinds of grays because it's easier to get values. Because here, let me take these out. These are colors. We're not talking about these ones today. So it's easier um, to get your values correct. So a lot of comic book artists, when you go to conventions, will often use these markers. And since every color is technically warm, cool, or neutral, you could kind of make the viewer kind of do all the work for you. So like if you're drawing Wolverine, you would use um, the warm grays for the yellow parts of his outfit, and then you could use the cool grays on the blue part of the outfit. And even though you're not literally putting yellow or blue, you're it will read that way. So that's why a lot of comic book artists use it. And when you buy these gray tones, you could buy them in like, so this is like N2, N0, N4. So 0, 2, 4, 6, 8. The higher you go, the darker it's going to be. So it's a lot easier to match values when you're messing around with just grays. All right? Yes, your brain fills in the information. Uh, so when I got started, I didn't have money to buy all the markers. Later on, I bought, well, my wife bought me this set, which is the entire set of cool grays. So it goes from C 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then there's a black. But before that, I was skipping every other number. So I started with W0. Well, let's go to neutrals first, because that's where I actually started. So neutral 0, and then I skipped buying neutral 1, went to neutral 2, skipped 3, went to 4, skipped 5, got 6, skipped 7, got 8. The reason I did that is because I didn't have enough money to buy all the markers that I needed. And I would watch Adam Hughes a lot when I first started, and he would always do this thing where, hopefully these have enough ink for the demo. He would do this thing where he would start with the lighter color, and then he would go darker, just gradually, and then he would just build it up like that. Um, it never worked for me because I feel like it's harder to blend when you're going from light to dark, because the dark, you see how easy the dark overtakes the light color? It like swallows it, right? So what I like to do is I like to go from dark to light. So let's start with the darkest one here, which is N8. And then I will extend it, like let's say, I like to extend it out just a little bit further than I want it to be. That way I have space. So like let's say I'm making, let's say I'm making some kind of cube, right? Can't see that. Let's say I'm making some kind of cube. And my intent is to just have about right here is where I wanted the N8. And then let's say in this area I wanted N7, N6, N5, N4, 3, and 2. Alright. Let's say I had a cube and I was trying to get that kind of gradation. but I don't have half of those colors because you don't have money to buy all the colors. So, um, let's say I wanted the N8 to end right there, right? So I'll fill that all in with N8. And then I like to extend it out just a little bit, about halfway through. Since I don't own N7, I'll take the N6, and then I'll blend it into this area. I'm working on a Strathmore Bristol 100 pound paper. The thicker the paper you use, the more ink you can really cake on, and the more you could blend. Yeah, so I like to go from dark to light. Ooh, it's streaking a little bit. This one's running out of ink. So then again, that was N6, and I moved halfway through to the area that I want the N5. Since I don't have N5, we grab N4. Again, go over it about halfway. Now, I do all my illustrations like this. Like, every time I get a commission, um, this is kind of the way I've had to do it, because I started doing conventions back, like, before I could afford a lot of Copics, so I just kind of got used to doing it with this technique, and then I've never really had to evolve past it, because it gets the job done with half the amount of markers that you would normally need to buy. And I'm grabbing the N2 right now. Hopefully there's a lot of ink in this. And the more ink you have in your markers, probably the better. These are running a little dry, but you get what I'm saying. So, so yeah. And that's pretty much how I do all of it. Um, all my commission work when I'm using grayscales. Now when you start messing around with colors, it's a little harder. Like all these weird ass colors, it's a little harder because it's hard to value match some of these colors because they're just fucking all over the place, especially with these Copics. So um, I what I normally just do is I have a little swatch pad on the side where I'll test out the ink where I'm like, okay, well, clearly one color is going to be a little darker than the other, right? But it's the same thing when I'm blending. And then you just put the lighter color on top of it. Again, halfway blend. And the thicker the paper you're using, see, whoop. All right, this sucks. My ink is running out on this pen, so that was a bad example. uh, but if this had full ink in it, you'd be able to see. Let's get a different marker and hit the other side. Let's grab another pen that has more ink in it and hit it the other side. But anyway, that's in general that's how I like to do everything, dark to light, and that's it. Um, that's really as simple as it is. Like if you can't afford to get all the markers, you can skip certain values in between. So anyway, this tutorial was more for the grays more than anything. Yeah, no, I'll take this stream, chop it out, and I'll put it up to YouTube so that you can see it. It's really short. I mean, like, I just demoed how you can go, how it's much easier to blend from dark to light than from light to dark. And that's it. So don't spend too much money getting your Copics at first. I like to start with grayscale. If somebody asks what I would recommend when learning your Copics, and it's get your grayscales first. Start with like a set of neutral grays. Skip every other color. Learn how to backwards blend from dark to light. You're buying half as many markers so you could you know, save a lot of money. And it's more important that you get used to the tool itself. Um, you get a feel for it. And then I do recommend the Strathmore Bristol 100 pound with the vellum surface, that rougher surface. To me, that's the best paper that works with Copic. See how much I've caked on there? It barely even bled to the other side. So that's it, guys. That's all that is involved with using Copics, especially if you're broke and you can only buy half the colors. So